Yesterday we saw the brand new Blade Runner movie, Blade Runner 2049. So Aidan, what was the plot of Blade Runner 2049?
Blade Runner 2049 is about an android named K who later adopts the name Joe. He's a Blade Runner, and for anyone who's seen the previous movie, a Blade Runner is someone who hunts down androids of the now old model, not androids, but replicants. Replicants are artificial humans. His job is to get rid of artificial humans who are still alive because the old artificial humans have a flaw where they're too human and they kind of develop their own sentience and they fight back against the people who, are essentially using them as slaves. And K is one of them. He's a replicant, but he's a new model, so he's more or less forced to obey any command he's given. And basically, Kay is sent on a job and discovers the bones of Rachel, who was a replicant in the first movie. And they uncovered that Rachel was the first replicant capable of having a child. The only replicant who lived to have a child, even though there were probably other replicants made. And so he basically is sent on a mission to find and kill this child to keep...
Like your Angry Bird jammies.
Anyway, he's put on an assignment to find the child and to eliminate them, because if news got out, people would kind of people would empathize with replicants a lot more, and they wouldn't really want them as slave labor. And so everyone in the movie is trying to figure out not only who the child replicant is, but where they are, and they all have their different uses for them. And Kay kind of struggles not only with his own identity as a replicant, but it's a pretty heavy movie, and it goes into the same themes that the original movie did of what is life and what does it mean to be a human. And I guess I don't want to give too much away about it. So Connor, talk about your thoughts on the Blade Runner 2049.
I thought the Blade Runner was pretty good, Blade Runner 2049. Admittedly, I haven't seen the first Blade Runner. It's one of the movies I've always been meaning to see, but it's long and I'm lazy, basically every time I see it. It's kind of like the original Terminator. Like, I've seen Terminator 2, haven't seen Terminator 1.
You haven't seen Terminator?
I haven't seen the original Terminator. I've seen like all of the Terminators but the original Terminator. I also haven't seen The Sixth Sense, which is another one I feel like everybody's seen that I haven't seen. I've heard it's kind of overrated, but anyways. Blade Runner, I've heard it's a really good movie, but I have seen a lot about Blade Runner. I've seen a lot of the visuals, and as a sci-fi fan, which, I mean, is kind of blasphemous that I haven't seen Blade Runner because of that, but regardless, I was kind of scared that this would fall into the trap of a modern movie where it'd feel like it had to be a big action movie. I was kind of scared the plot would be like, I'm going to take down Jared Leto, and it'd be like a big-ass, like, war movie, basically, or like, not a war movie, but a Star Wars movie, basically, like most science fiction movies dissolve to. And it didn't really do that, which was nice. And on top of that, we also had a very nice world. A lot of science fiction movies fall into the trap like Valerian did, where they want to make this expansive world. with all these worlds in it, and it's just so over the top and huge, and it might be a huge world, but they spend no time developing it. Like, you know, they want to have the whole Star Wars universe, but they don't want to put the work in to make it the Star Wars universe, kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe thing, where people like the Mummy just try to like rip it off. And I was scared that this movie would try to do that more so than the original one seemed to do from what I've seen. And it didn't really do that. It had a really grounded world. Everything felt like it had its rule book and it followed it. And it didn't try to become more than it was, like in the universe. It kept it grounded and it felt like it really knew what it was doing. Kind of on that same point, the effects were really nice and kind of did well. Like the original movie had groundbreaking special effects. You look at that movie and it's a beautiful movie from, of course, what I've seen, but I've seen quite a bit of like clips and stuff and reviews on it. And, you know, I was kind of scared the visuals would get bogged down and kind of just be generic sci-fi, like the Star Trek movie in Valerian kind of felt like. But it did a really good job of doing that. I thought the acting was all good. Like, I was kind of scared about Ryan Gosling maybe when...
Yeah, Ryan Gosling is kind of like...
Not that Ryan Gosling's... Like, I normally think Ryan Gosling's good.
He's
part
not
of it
bad,
was that
but he's always kind of got like that flatness to him.
Yeah.
And it worked well in this movie because he was a robot, but there was that one scene where he just like flipped out and went insane when he was talking to the girl in the memory lab, and
yeah,
it was really intense. He was like,
I don't know, he's a good actor
movie.
and everything he's in.
Just,
this, The Nice Guys, something.
No,
I was just kind
I like him, but
at times I just kind of doubt how good he is as an actor. I think a lot of it is kind of as his caliber of an actor. He feels like an actor that would be overrated, but then you see something with him and you're like, he did good in this one. I mean, I definitely feel like he took cues from his character in Drive, where he was kind of a quiet character, and, you know, obviously he upplayed it because this time he was like the replicant, so he was kind of like a mindless clone. And that was pretty cool. He did a good job. Jared Leto was pretty cool in his role, surprisingly, because all I really seen of Jared Leto previously was Suicide Squad, and that was just downright cringy, although we also have to keep in mind that was Suicide Squad. Harrison Ford was good in this. Didn't feel as shoehorned as like Han Solo did, where Han Solo kind of just felt like he has to be in here because the fans' appeasement, and he, you know, Harrison Ford just felt like a side character. It wasn't something that they threw in your face the whole movie like in Star Wars 7. And I thought that was really cool. The story was its own story. It had elements of a sequel, a belated sequel, but it definitely wasn't like a reboot or a soft reboot where it just tried to redo like Q for Q the original movie, and it also didn't really lean on the first movie that much from my understanding of it, and it told its own story, and it did a pretty good job doing that. So Aidan, what did you think of this, or what are your thoughts on this movie?
I loved it. I'm gonna lay some heresy on you. I'm gonna say it's better than the original. The original is a classic. It's a classic. Every science fiction fan knows it. It's a huge cult movie, but it's also a mess. You know, Harrison Ford and the actress who plays Rachel. You know, you hear about how much they hated each other, and it shows in the movie because their chemistry is so weird. And there's some really awkward scenes in the first movie. The first movie really succeeds in its world building, and this movie kind of does it even better. I mean, I don't want to shit on the first movie. It's a great movie. It's just, you know, everything about this movie, it does the same thing as the first movie, where the first movie questioned the nature of what was and wasn't alive. And I think, you know, you have Ryan Gosling, and he's a robot, and he's all the characters who aren't human are more human than the humans in this movie. Jared Leto is basically a monster, and he's like one of the few pure humans in this movie. And
Yeah.
you see all the replicants, and they're like.
I also like how they kind of
And then you have his
showed that too.
his wife is like just AI. She's just a hologram. She's computer code designed to just, you know, she's nothing. She doesn't exist. She exists even less than a replicant does, and she feels more human than the humans. And it's really kind of a powerful movie, I guess.
Can I, before we move on too much, can I point something out about Jared Leto? This is one thing kind of adding on to your humans felt less human point. One thing is I thought the police chief pointing out how she thought Ryan Gosling or Joe as a replicant felt more human than most humans. And it also kind of commented on racism in a bit, I feel like. But moving on from that point a little bit, just kind of a side note there. But one thing I thought was interesting visually that showed that the humans were less human almost than the replicants at times. Jared Leto was being followed around by like those 10 robots. He had his like super eyes, which
He was blind, and so he used these robots to see, and it kind of gave him a creepy, inhuman quality to him.
And yeah, he almost felt like a robot and looked more like a robot than these replicants, but he was talking about the replicants like they were basically disposable and not real humans, and yet people like Joe and people like Rachel and Harrison Ford and Joy proved that a lot of them were more human. And even the replicant from the start of the movie that he tracks down, you know, wanted to fight and keep what was his.
You know, the world building is fantastic, just like in the first movie. It feels like a real world that could exist, like this disgusting, terrible place. And you see so much of it, like everywhere there's these weird ads, there's like holograms everywhere, everywhere you go there's ads and holograms.
And the Atari box really picked up, and Atari became a media conglomerate again because
everything
of the Atari box.
And there's just so much detail put into it. Like the start of the movie is him hunting down an old replicant, and because the entire world has gone to shit since the first movie. Everything outside of the cities is just garbage. He goes to this garbage place. He goes to the ruins of San Francisco, I think.
He goes to Las Vegas.
And San Francisco is literally just a fucking garbage dump. There's these trucks constantly just dumping garbage. But, you know, there's so much detail put into it. Like, he goes to, when he's at the place, he's hunting down the first replicant. The first replicant is like a farmer, and you first see him in this big suit. And you're like, what is he farming? And he's farming fucking maggots. The world is so fucking shitty that to get protein, people are farming maggots to eat as food. And he finds a flower laying beside the tree, and that's how he finds Rachel's bones. And later on in the movie, when he goes to Vegas, you see that Harrison Ford has this little colony of bees. And you realize that the reason he has these bees is so that he can pollinate flowers, specifically because he loved Rachel so much that he wanted to leave flowers on her grave, and that's what leads into this story. There's like so much detail. Everything feels like it's a real story, like it's a real true thing that could have happened, even though it exists in this weird, far-off future where there's flying cars and holograms and AI wives and robots and all this other stuff. It's like,
when I'm 51 years old, do you think this is what the world's going to look like after North Korea gets that intercontinental nuke? They can nuke out Wisconsin, Scottyville.
I hope we have a world like that. Because then,
flying cars and everyone's dead.
Flying cars, life sucks outside of the one place that's habitable. But anyway, Harrison Ford looks increasingly haggard, but he was really good in this movie. I worry for the dude's health, and the fact that he's going to be in Indiana Jones 5 is,
This movie, his age didn't matter as much, I don't think, since he wasn't like an action hero. He's just an old man who's like, oh, you're Ryan Gosling.
He's just a sad old guy. You know, the movie was really emotional, a lot of places, and the way the story develops, you're kind of led to believe one thing, and you start to believe it, and the main character believes it, and at the end, it kind of just pulls the rug out from under you, and things make a lot of sense, and it's a really good story. The movie is beautiful. I mean, sometimes they went a little hard on the filters, like Las Vegas is covered in this orange filter, but I think a lot of the movie was just like visually fantastic. The acting was great. I already mentioned the part where Ryan Gosling, Joe, whatever you want to call him, flipped out, and you know, you could kind of feel that Harrison Ford was a sad old man, Deckard. There were a few things I didn't like, and I guess I'll go into those real quick because I don't want to sound like I'm just dick sucking this too much, but Jared Leto's character never really gets a follow-up in the end of the movie, where he's got plans to essentially create a slave race based around finding this child and being able to replicate the process of making a child, and then I know it's not important, but he just kind of
part of it, another great part about this movie is it's not such a grand thing where it's like Ryan Gosling's like, I gotta take down the system. No. But the other thing is, the next one's probably going to be passed on to some hack, because they're making a sequel. Sony Pictures is probably already confirmed. It's Sony Pictures. Sony, the sequel lover There's probably four to five movies already planned.
They also, you know, ever since the director's cut of the original movie, there's been the debate: is Deckard a replicant or is Deckard not a replicant? Harrison Ford has always said he's probably not, and it's really dumb if he is, but I don't give a shit. Ridley Scott insists that he is a replicant. I think the story's a lot more powerful if it's not a replicant. You know, the love of a man for a robot, and they make a real child, but they don't go into it. They make some vague reference to the fact that he may or may not be.
Well, he said the thing was designed.
It's tough to say because I hoped for more clarification. I
thought they kind of said it straight out when Jared Leto was there talking to him in the thing and said, "You guys were both designed to."
No, he said, "Can you really confirm that it was love and not just programming to set you there?" I don't think Jared Leto's character knows either, because there was the blackout that wiped the files. There's no proof either way that Deckard is or isn't.
I mean, no matter what they do, make a sequel or not,
leaving it vague was a little bit of a cop-out. But you know, I think overall there's like a lot of emotional highs to this movie. We briefly meet a character who her job is to just make memories for replicants, and she's stuck away from the rest of the world all alone in a box, just making memories to make replicants' lives better. And you know, the movie, it's emotional, and it's really a great story and great characters and great shooting, and all around it's just fantastic. It's weird to say about a sequel, especially one so belated.
Yeah. And one that seemed
like a Ridley Scott movie, because
one that only this wasn't Ridley Scott.
I know he didn't direct it, but he had a lot of involvement in it.
He produced it. In other words, Sony said, "Here's a fucking paycheck if you say."
I don't know who was responsible for this movie, but
I think it was
they got every single thing right.
Richie or something. I don't think Richie was his name. Some shit. Fucking. I don't know.
But anyway. Would you recommend I almost called this Alien Covenant, but it's Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, I'd recommend this movie. It's kind of an interesting observation that every good movie Sony's made this year was with conjunction with another studio. This one was Sony and Warner Brothers. I don't really know why they teamed up with Warner Brothers or why Warner Brothers teamed up with Sony. Probably some rights bullshit, I'm sure. Or it was one of those things where Sony's like, let's make a Blade Runner sequel. Then Amy Pascal threw like $100 million at Warner Brothers to get it, or vice versa. I don't fucking know. I don't fucking care. I'm not gonna look into it. But then Sony teamed up with Disney to make Spider-Man Homecoming, and if I'm not mistaken, those are the two good Sony movies that have come out this year. I think everything else they've made is basically unwatchable garbage, if I'm not mistaken. So that was an interesting observation, but yes, I would recommend this movie. It was quite good. You know, it was kind of a refreshing movie in the way that it had a high budget, it had a lot going for it, but they didn't decide, oh, Ryan Gosling's gonna destroy Jared Leto's evil operation. They didn't make it into like some big over-the-top story. You know, the story is its own story within this universe. The replicants are still getting hunted at the end of this movie and stuff. It's not like they're trying to solve the world's problems, end world hunger, and fucking go away with smiling with the Earth fine. The Earth's still fucked. It's like, it's just what would happen if the Earth got fucked over, these replicants existed, and they were basically our slaves. And then we watch, and this is just a story that happens in this universe with this rulebook. I can see Blade Runner sequels happening because of this, more of them. Do I want more sequels? Do I want more sequels, especially considering a director like this that directed this movie, I'm assuming doesn't want to do sequels. Maybe not more than one. And since this movie it seems like it'll be pretty successful, looks pretty popular from what I've seen. I don't know, maybe it'll flop. But it seems pretty popular. I'm sure they're gonna make another one if it makes money because it's Sony Pictures. Is it possible to do another one? Yeah, but if they do it, I think they should do it kind of anthology style where we see characters in this universe and follow them around. No particular story. Jared Leto isn't ending it, but they already established that they're setting up the army at the end.
Jared Leto would kind of have to be in it because the corporation he's the head of
this movie is its own thing, but
90% of the world. I mean,
yeah, but I mean they basically set up that if they make a sequel, it's going to be a war between the replicants and the fucking corporation. And this movie, setting that up is fine because it's like, we're starting to see an uprising, but if you make that into a movie, it's not really going to capture the essence of what this now 2 movie series has to offer. Maybe make one 10 years down the line or 20 years down the line, that's fine. Maybe even 5 years down the line, but I don't think this is a series I want to see coming out every year or 2 years where like fucking Tony Hawk Blade Runner anthology, you know? That would just kind of be retarded to beat this franchise to death. If there's a story worth telling, to do it, but otherwise, fuck it.
it's interesting that you brought up anthologies because before the release of this movie, they released, I think, 4 animated shorts that were created to fill the gap narratively between Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049.
Weren't they anime?
They were all animated. One of them, in fact, was directed by the guy who directed Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo.
They all were, I thought.
No, they were all directed by different people, but one of them was directed by the guy who made Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo and Space Dandy. Those anthology episodes are really great, and I would recommend them. And I mean, God knows that guy's not getting enough work. You know, he 2 seasons of Space Dandy, 2 seasons of Cowboy Bebop, 2 seasons of Shamrock Champloo. Not much sense. So the fact that we get to see something else in his style is super nice. But yeah, obviously I'd recommend this movie. I loved it a lot. Before you go, take time out of your day, watch the original Blade Runner on Netflix. I think it's probably still there. It's been there for years. If it's not,
Solar movies.
You can rev up your favorite form of piracy and watch Blade Runner.
Solar movies on Google Chrome with Adblock. It's quick, it's easy.
It adds a lot of context to the movie that's not necessary to enjoy the movie.
Which one is the preferred cut? Director's cut or extended cut?
Theatrical cut. Fuck the extended
Why?
cut.
I thought the theatrical cut was the one with the voiceover.
There's problems with the theatrical cut, but the extended cut tries to force the idea that Decker's a replicant, and Decker being a replicant is fucking stupid. It's stupid, Ridley Scott. I don't give a fuck what you say. I don't give a fuck what Ridley Scott says. Decker realizing that the replicants are human is the point of the story.
I haven't even seen the movie, but
he comes to recognize.
Thematically speaking, it just kind of makes more sense.
It makes so much more sense. If he isn't, it's so dumb if he's a replicant. It literally ruins the story of the first movie. It makes the story of this movie slightly dumber. Decker's not a replicant. Fuck you, Ridley Scott. You're a hack. You made Alien Covenant. I haven't seen it, but it's fucking garbage. Prometheus was dumb. Alien 3 was dumb. Alien Resurrection was dumb.
We kind of gotta watch it in Covenant. I mean, we have every other crappy
Ridley Scott
on this year.
I love you, Ridley Scott. You've made some great movies, but you're a fucking dumb shit. You don't understand your own fucking movie. It doesn't make sense. You fell into the trap of believing a fan theory. Decker was not a replicant before fans suggested the idea, and then you ran with it, and it's fucking stupid. The CGI unicorn you put in the theatrical cut or in the director's cut, nobody wants to see a fucking CGI unicorn. You know what it does? It makes the movie fucking stupid, Ridley Scott.
Kevin Feige's the king of adopting stupid fan theories.
Yes, he is.
He's the ace.
Hail to the chief, baby.